people today. Very happy to see you all. So since it's already 6:minutes, I am going to start by saying hello, everyone, and welcome to our first event of the Partner Activator series. As probably some of you know me, I'm Joanna and I'm part of the events team at Kanbanize. I would like to first and foremost welcome you and thank you for attending today's event. Your participation is very meaningful to us. It speaks volumes about your dedication to our mutual partnership, and I'm very happy to see you all here. This event is about you. At the end of the day, we would like to give you the knowledge to test and have the best practices for landing and also expanding your and your clients' portfolios. Our goal would be to provide you with valuable insights and tools and to help you grow your business and achieve your professional goals. What is more, those of you who participate in the series constantly are going to receive special awards, and you can check this down below in the chat. More information about this is going to be also available in the email that you're going to receive after the event is over. So don't worry about missing anything. And with no further delay, I'm very happy to get you introduced to my teammates or the force behind this event. We have Carolina today, who joins as our partnerships head.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
And then we have Albena, who is our senior partner success manager. Then we have Veronica.
Hi, everyone.
Who is our strategic events manager. And we also have Gabriel, who is leading our sales team and who is going to share his valuable tips and tricks for making a successful sale.
Hi, everybody.
And then, of course, we have Martina, who is one of our sales wizards and who is also going to help a lot today.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Clearly, the sales team didn't get the memo about the background. We assure you they were all from Kanbanize.
Yeah, you can check it out on the background as well. And before we dive into detail, I would like to shortly brief you through the format of the event today. As you have already noticed, probably, this is not the usual webinar that you're going to attend. Actually, it's quite the opposite. We aim for discussion here, so please share your thoughts, your concerns, or your insights. We are going to have the discussion here in Zoom and in parallel in the Lean Coffee Table platform, where you can put your thoughts, put your questions, and express any topics that you would like to be addressed in the meeting. So before I start with the link to the Lean Coffee Table platform that's going to be put in the chat in a second, I'm going to first launch a poll for you guys. The poll aims for you to actually, I think somebody from the partnerships team should have the poll because I
think it started.
Yeah, I think it started as well. Yeah, I have it. So please fill in the poll and share your expectations for today. We would like to be sure that we address anything specific that you have in mind and that we meet your expectations, of course. And once you're ready, we are going to transfer to Lean Coffee Table. This is very easy to be done. You can access the platform via the link in the chat, fill in your details, and then you're going to be in the platform where you can state a topic that you want to be addressed. Be sure that there are 3 points that you can use to vote. The points are used for you to rate a certain topic, and I strongly encourage you to use all the 3 points that you have, guys, because this is going to give us a relative perspective on which is the most important and the most desirable topic to be discussed. Also, as I can see, there are a lot of people today, which makes me very happy, but also maybe it's a bit confusing on your screen. So on the top right corner, you could see that there are different views. Yeah, I'm not sure which corner to point. There are different views that you can switch, so it's easy on your eyes and you can follow the topics in the easiest way possible for your personal preferences. And I think the links should, yep. If everybody is ready with the poll. Actually, do you see the poll, guys? I'm not sure.
No, I don't see that.
Okay. Just react here with the reaction icon in the bottom of your screen once you're ready, so we know when to share the link, coffee table link.
Oh, there.
Okay. Diego, yes, it should appear as a pop-up on your screen. And Alan, I'm not sure why you are not able to see it, but I suggest that it could be a delay. Okay, that's good. We got it now. Okay, perfect. Carolina relaunched it.
I'm a bit confused here right now. So I have a poll from Zoom and I have this link coffee table. Do you want me to add in both what I'm looking to achieve or what I want to know?
Actually, you first need to start with the poll on Zoom, and then we're going to all transfer to link coffee table where we are going to state the topics. We're going to use it as a board. So it's not the same thing. It's going to be just an addition to the experience.
Okay, then I've been a good girl.
You can, yeah. The topics that we put in link coffee should be, you know, what we want to discuss all here today. But if you have any other expectations from the, you know, from the format of the meeting or something like this, that's, yeah.
That's going to be covered by the poll here in Zoom. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's maybe transfer to the link coffee, Joanna, because
yes,
we are already 10 minutes past and we have a lot to cover.
That's correct. And I'm going to resend the link once more. I'm already in the platform and I can see that many of you are already in as well. On your screen, guys, you're going to see the different topics expressed as cards. So you can use your votes to rate the topics they're going to switch. And once we pick a topic, we're going to put a timer on it. That is going to show us what is the time span that we have to reach out, discuss, ask questions, etc.
And each of you has 3 votes. So use them all.
And wisely. I can see that what the best use cases for Kanbanize are has a lot of coverage as well as
Yeah.
Also, the perfect Kanbanize client is a very popular topic as far as I can see here.
You should be able also to join the link coffee table even if you don't have a link coffee account. Can you see that Diego has a question on that?
Yeah, you don't need to have an account. You can just click on the link and you can join as a guest. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
what are the best use cases for Kanbanize as maybe the most popular one?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of people with still some
Yeah,
dots left.
of course.
Just use them.
I'm
Maybe,
like a
and-
sports journalist here, giving live updates all the time on the score.
yeah.
Hi team, reminder, someone should be sharing screen.
We agreed we're not going to share the screen with the link coffee because we are all looking at the link coffee, so it doesn't make any sense.
For the recording's sake, we won't be able to record it if we don't share
Oh,
the screen.
okay,
That's
then I'll
why.
share it. Okay, just let me. Yeah, I'm not the host.
Okay.
Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, for most of the people, it might be confusing because I've participated in those before, and it's better if you just look at your own, yeah, on your own browser. Okay, is everybody ready with their votes? Maybe we can proceed to discussions.
I see Felipe has one vote left. Pedro Luis also has one. Oh, no, two actually left. So and
It's good for
Dennis.
me.
Okay.
Okay, let's start the
Dennis.
discussion.
Okay. So I see the most popular topic is what is the best use case for Kanbanize, or what are the best use cases, plural actually. Somebody who is keen on addressing this topic first?
Maybe just start with the most popular ones one by one, and we're going to start discussing and then.
तेरा काम हो गया?
Okay, so we can start with the best use cases, maybe. I think that's the most popular topic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe move that one to discussing.
Yes. But going to put 3 minutes for discussion then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is there somebody who wants to mention some use cases that you have observed that work very well with Kanbanize?
Maybe I can start with just some general information, and I'm sure that all of you folks have taken a look at our website. So in terms of use cases, on the highest possible, on a high level, I would look at industry typically, and as you probably know, we work very well with pharmaceutical, aerospace, mechanical, industrial engineering, chemicals, financial industries. In terms of the people we work with, there's some kind of some things that people often tell me is that Kanbanize is only used by IT or software development teams, which is so not true. And we in fact work so well with non-IT teams, and I very often talk to these kind of folks when we get requests, when we talk to newcomers to the softwares. So I would say non-IT teams work very well with Kanbanize, not just IT or software development teams. Now, in terms of specific cases, I'll stop here because if we start talking about specific cases, 3 minutes is not going to be enough at all. But if somebody wants to jump in with some example, would be super cool.
Yeah, use case I have, a couple of use cases I have was in the services industry, so service delivery. I thought Kanban worked really well. Also test automation development was also another area which was a really good fit. And both of them, you know, a lot of it had to do with the ability to link, you know, timelines, initiatives, to tasks, and break it down, and be able to have this one pane of glass where, you know, you can see the entire, you know, visualize the work for the entire team, not just have 3 different boards, you know, that summarize the team's work.
Yeah, I found that Kanbanize is useful for, let's say, environments where different teams need to know what's coming to them and what's going company that had different divisions that would work in a way agile, but needed to know from each other when things were coming. And Kanbanize, especially in the Kanbanize, is very good for. The same goes for instance, for a service department in a hospital that also needed to know what was coming from different directions. So especially the more complex work line.
Haneke, we lost you for.
I'm not sure. Yeah, we hear you.
Let me fix this. I have a annoying computer.
No worries.
Okay, somebody else in the meanwhile, we have 30 seconds extended time to reach out.
Yeah, in Brazil, we have some cases where companies are using Kanbanize in legal services. They are also using for recruitment, you know, in HR areas. It's very well used. And we are also trying taking Kanbanize at commercial or sales departments. It has helping them to organize their deal very well. So as soon as possible, we will have these cases sharing with the community, especially the legal services. You know, this is very easy to apply.
And I'll probably jump in here because we are currently working a lot on use cases in the pharma industry specifically. So expect some very interesting materials to come out of this initiative. But basically, I wanted to say that any type of work which yields itself to you know, knowledge management and any type of work that is not visible and we need to track is a good candidate for Kanbanize. And actually the use cases are very, very different. So just in the pharma industry, we have seen so many different ways in which Kanbanize is used in the different moments of the product development cycle. Some people are using Kanbanize just to do research and development of new drugs. Some people to test and also work with the data from clinical trials. Other people are using it to track the quality and control of the drugs that are already produced. And we also have people using Kanbanize in to basically monitor the production line and the packaging of pills. Another use case is managing events in pharma and also digital transformation and teams that are working on very innovative apps in the pharma sector. And even another use case is just managing projects in the pharma industry. So we have stumbled across so many use cases in just one industry. So this probably gives you a perspective of what's the possibility out there. I think that one thing we are focusing a lot on at the moment is to not target just IT companies, because that's where our largest competitors are. And we are trying to focus on industries where there is nothing today, and also where tools like Jira would just be very cumbersome to use by the teams because they are not developers anyway. So that's my piece of recommendation here to this topic.
Thank you, Kari, for sharing your insights. Anybody else to jump in with their experience on actually pharma clients?
Just one quick example. I worked with a law firm that was an immigration law firm that was tracking their cases, and they're all the way through. It worked very well because it was, these cases were spread out over long periods of time, and they had lots of different workflows, lots of different steps depending upon the type of case and so forth. So I was very surprised to find a bunch of lawyers who actually understood what the benefits might be from something like this, and they implemented it well. They're still at the beginning, but they're maturing.
Maybe I just add on.
Yep.
Andrea, did you want to say
something? Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add on. So as some of you know, I'm like my main source of information is from aerospace, and there, since we are a large company, we really use it in pretty much every area. So from future programs, the standard operational everyday work, in HR now, in commercial. So wherever you have either task or process, which here it is everywhere. So for large projects, I still find it a bit tricky sometimes, especially when we have like 20, 30 teams to collaborate with. I know it is like partly meant for it, but it's still, there are certain things that we would need on top. But anyways, now we're excited to have a new client, which is doing solar implementations. And there we really have like an end-to-end value stream that we're going to map out, and they're really excited. So supply chain is also definitely one of the potential options, especially if you don't have data security issues.
Perfect. So maybe we want to move to another topic.
Yeah,
Joanna?
then I think it's going to be best if we move to the next topic. And I'm going to put an initial of 5 minutes because we are quite talkative, and I'm going to extend with another 3 minutes if it's needed. Please, somebody who can jump in with how to construct a roadmap for implementation.
Sorry, me again, but I would like to add a topic for discussion just as a direction a bit without giving an answer. So what I see is that there are two approaches to implementations. One is like a, let's say, full package implementation, so that you first map the whole process, you train the team on the methodology and so on, versus the opposite almost of that, to just start slowly by the tool, and while you develop the boards and the specifications and the analytics, get more and more into the depths of the methodology. And I would just be interested what approaches you take and why, if I may request that.
Tool or training first and mindset?
So this is Derek. Hi there. Sorry I'm late. I had a client meeting run long. There's tools, training, but I think I thought I heard a third option, and it's the one that I tend to prefer: tools, training, or pilot. Start small with what some group does now, something that's large enough to matter to the organization, but small enough that it's not an incredibly complicated value flow. Get that group using it. Kanbanize is great because it's so easy, and they can just go, oh, it's like cards, I get it. Start with a very simple workflow, and bake in tuning or Kaizen into the process and get the group really owning the process of developing their own value flow. And very rapidly they start saying, well, this is great for us, but upstream we interface here and downstream we interface here and we call out to here, which creates an opportunity to start expanding. So you can even bake the training into that. But if you can get people to just start and use sort of a structured evolution process, I think that the adoption curve is much shallower.
So
Smoother.
if I can, to second what Derek said, if you can get a small thing that works and then scale it up, brilliant. That I found recently is a harder sell than it was 10 years ago, because everyone thinks they can do it in a small, and everybody wants to run before they can walk. I think one of the things we're touching on is what I call the Kanban paradox. If you're doing Scrum, then Scrum, it lends itself to a big bang change. You go in, you train them all, you give them a bit of coaching, and if they're stuck, they can Google it, and there's 1,000,001 books and webinars and whatever else out there, and you can do a pretty good approximation of Scrum with very little help. If you're doing Kanban, I don't want to be nasty about it, but there's some serious knowledge needed here to really make it work. It's really, really easy to get started with Kanban, to pull up a board and to blow your work in progress limits, call it Kanban, and nothing ever gets better. To actually get Kanban working seriously, you really need some hand-holding, some experience, some consultancy. Scrum, I'm all for going in with a big bang and tell them how it's going to be. Kanban, I'm more slowly catch the monkey. I don't want to treat people as idiots. I don't want to lie to them, but they can't comprehend what too much work in progress is until they've seen it.
I have to agree with you, Alan, because for me to understand Scrum was a lot easier than Kanban. And I think that's because Scrum is, a little bit closer to how most people work. And by that, I mean that with Kanban, you have to have knowledge of flow and flow metrics. And in the beginning, it's a little bit counterintuitive when you start. And it's a little bit harder to understand the metrics and the graphs in Kanban, even though it's tremendously more useful than estimating in story points, at least in my opinion, in my experience. But I think that's one of the reasons why, because estimating in story points, for example, which a lot of Scrum teams do, is very close to how they're used to work anyway. It's just that they estimate in story points now and not in days and hours.
Yeah. And that actually makes it more difficult for the organization, because what a lot of organizations want is they want a solution. And Scrum comes along and says, pay us, tens of thousands, we'll train everyone, we'll throw them at Scrum, they'll be working iterations. And it looks like a solution. Kanban comes along and says, we're going to start where we are, we'll put a board up, we'll debug it as we go forward. And so your change curve is quite different. And typically what happens with both of them is, once teams feel as if they've ticked the box that they've done something, and once they see a little bit of improvement, they stop taking the medicine. I've taken a few days of penicillin, I'm feeling better, I don't need to finish the course.
That's why it's critical to get people engaged in making it useful for them. And what I found is, so failed Scrum implementations are my favorite way to bring in Kanban. But when you've got people excited about visualization before the Kanban maturity model kind of steps all of this stuff up, and I don't want to oversell that, but it's worked pretty well in terms of getting people excited about, hey, we can see what's going on. Holy crap, we've got way too much going on. Let's prioritize. I don't want to talk about WIP limits yet, but let's prioritize and then start adding in WIP limits. And the easier the tool is, the more that they learn by doing. But yes, it absolutely requires someone alongside coaching, helping them for the duration of the process. But I'm working with a group right now that I've given them 6 months of coaching, and they're pulling now. At this point, they're pulling change. They're saying, what else? What else do we learn? How can we make it better? I've read this. Is this good? Is this good? So getting them engaged, I think, has been really key.
And maybe I want to add one more thing, because we mentioned start small. I would add start small, but have a strategy as well. I think that a lot of people choosing tools, when they go for something like Jira or Microsoft Planner or wherever, you know, a simple Kanban tool, they do it because they are choosing it from the, you know, from where they are now. They are at the team level. So I think we have to explain to them that as they mature, which is a recommendation, they need to choose wisely a tool that will grow with their usage and the way that they are going to be maturing their Kanban practices, which is, I think, a point that a lot of people and decision makers, they miss it when they're choosing a tool. They're just looking at where they are now, you know, maturity level 0 or 1, and you know, then a lot of tools can do the job, yeah, but what happens as we mature as an organization, if we want to mature, of course.
And here, Kari, I would like to interrupt you and direct the topic to the perfect Kanbanize client, and if they're mature or not, because I think we're halfway through the time. I'm going to set it for 5 minutes discussion, and maybe we could dive in deeper with the objective of the perfect Kanbanize client.
Sure. I don't see any topic like this on the screen I'm sharing, but
I think it's some kind of a delay, but it's already
maybe
30 seconds down the time. I can share my screen.
Okay, so in terms of perfect client, then Gabe, is there a perfect client for Kanbanize? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll actually link that to the first part of our discussion about best use cases for Kanbanize to an extent. But I'd say the perfect client would be most of the time working with a consultant. That's just the reality, because we've seen, I don't know how many, numerous times that when people were right there working with the customer, helping them with the implementation, explaining everything on site, helping them on site, the implementation is just so much better. So that's one thing that I'll definitely put out there. Apart from that, for me, when I talk to companies, I try to understand what is their agile maturity. Is there an agile transformation going on in there or not? If there is, that's a huge plus. Maybe an agile center of excellence inside the organization, or are they at least starting to build something like that? If they are, then there's a management commitment for change. So those kind of things are, from my experience, very important.
Yeah, and yes, go on,
yeah,
Martina.
I just wanted to add just a couple of words on what Gabriel just said about the perfect client, because this is a really difficult question. However, from my point of view, when I was talking with some of our leads, I can see that the one that falls a little bit more into the perfect client would be the one that has gotten to a point, it doesn't matter which position that person is inside the organization, but they realize that there is, the time has come for a change. So they recognize that there are some problems and challenges with their current setups and processes. It can be only processes or only setup, but they see that, and that's when they realize that they should try to invest some time into looking for a different kind of tool that would help them be more agile, more efficient, more flexible in what they're doing, because they might be working in a really outdated way. We know about this. So I believe it should also be a sort of evangelist, this kind of person, because he or she can bring it pretty well to the rest of the team, and that can roll up to the whole organization. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
And they should be very influential, because if they have, you know, the right amount of influence and power in the organization, then they could really help this change and transformation. Usually those type of people are head of agility, lean, continuous improvement leaders, is some of the roles that we usually come across. And then we also have, of course, program and project portfolio managers, head of R&D, head of digital or digital transformation. Yeah, those are typically the kind of people that we engage. When we engage with, we have very, very good implementations.
I kind of like what Doug also brought up here in the chat. Perfect customer already has had a bad experience with Jira Scrum and started gathering knowledge. So if somebody is using another solution and they have very specific reasons why it's not working for them, and they are on their way of exploring additional solutions, that's a very good point to understand what they don't like about the current situation, what they miss exactly. And if we cover the points there, that's a perfect client, because they already have something in place, but they have specific things which they're missing in their current status quo.
Can I ask you, can I ask Kanbanize and anyone on this call, have you ever seen a client move away from Jira? And if you have, how big was that client? Was it an enterprise installation? Because I've never seen it, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who's ever dumped Jira.
Oh, well, yeah, we've seen it.
Like a serial number of organizations I have. I don't believe they exist.
We've moved a few clients from very large to vendors, not just Jira.
No, just Jira. I believe that the Trello, I believe DevOps Azure, I believe a million more of them can die, but Jira is like an incurable cancer.
It depends on the organization and what is the majority of work that they do, because if they have a lot of developers, that's where we also don't really try too much, because there is just a lot of resistance, and that's the reality. Like Atlassian owns Jira and a lot of other tools that are very well integrated for developers.
But my case is, if they've got Jira, don't even bother selling them on Kanbanize. Either walk out the door or learn to live with it, because you might as well tell them to dump SAP. They ain't going to do it.
For the sake of time, I'm going to interrupt this discussion. I'm really sorry. And I'm going to propose a new topic, because we are aiming to cover some different topics. So let's go for what qualifying questions are used for from us and from Kanbanize users, so we know that clients are strategic and potential for expansion.
Excuse me, but may I just address the last thing, because I think it's important for the conversation. To Alan's point, if the company is using Jira on a very large scale and it has implemented everything, all Atlassian tools, it's super hard to move away. But we have experience for smaller companies that we have moved completely away from Jira. We have experience even with a couple of very large enterprise, Fortune 500 companies that have moved away from Jira. They didn't use Jira with all of its add-ons, but we have succeeded there. So it really depends on what level is the already established implementation. But to be honest, today, we are fine if IT departments are using Jira and the business needs something else. This is the situation that I am right now with a very large pharmaceutical company. IT uses Jira, that's fine. Business wants to use something for project management. They don't like Jira for obvious reasons. They're a business unit, not an IT unit. Jira is super hard for IT. So they need something else. And this is where we're coming in.
Now is the time to switch to the topic that I proposed a minute earlier. If nobody is going to reply on what Gabe just said, we can talk about the qualifying questions, guys, that we use to ensure that the clients are strategic and potential for expansion. I think let's start with 5 minutes so we could cover it.
I think we mentioned it already. Pretty much it's whether there is a transformation happening and whether they're strategic about it. If they're not strategic about it, and by strategic, I mean they are not planning to mature, they're planning to have a couple of teams doing Scrum, a couple of teams doing Kanban, and we're never going to work cross-functionally or think as a service-oriented organization, and we're never going to bother, with coordinating on the different levels. If we're talking about flight levels, for example, then just don't bother. I mean, this is a very immature organization. The other thing is whether we have evangelists. We also mentioned this, and whether they are empowered by the upper management, because you might have a super big fan of Kanban or Kanbanize in a company, and they might not be influential. And another thing, which is not so much a qualifying question, but something we are doing during due diligence, is that we check on LinkedIn for what are the different use cases inside the company. So just because a company is super big, in terms of employees, it doesn't mean that they're all potential Kanbanize users. So we are looking for specific use cases there. And Gabe, do you have any other questions that you usually ask leads when you talk with them at the discovery?
So for us, it's crucial to just understand what's the current situation, what they're using right now, and why looking to change, and what they like about what's being done right now, and what they miss. And if we have what they like about the current situation, and we also have what they don't have right now, then the conversation from there on is pretty easy.
And Gabe, you shared your experience about how to approach a big potential client, in your case in pharma industry. Maybe you would like to touch more about this topic. What are the best tips and tricks that you could share into landing, and actually first approaching and then landing a big potential client?
Yeah, it's funny how everything links back to agile transformation, but that's maybe just the reality of things. I would typically approach them again with this kind of discussion to understand what's happening. Is there a agile center of excellence? That's why when we talk to enterprise, of course, it's a completely different stories when we talk to smaller or mid-sized companies. Is there a strategic agile transformation going on? What's the buy-in? Is it just a few teams? Is it thousands and thousands of people? Is it an entire enterprise?
Gabriel, can I pick you up on that agile transformation?
Sure.
Can I suggest yes, you're right about agile transformation, but it's broader than that. It's digital transformation. What we're talking about here is not the introduction of agile processes, but processes that support digital transformation. If you install those digital tools and you still route every decision through a manager, if you don't let the teams make decisions, etc., so you aren't going to get the benefit of them. So what we're actually addressing, the question is digital transformation. And I would suggest that, quote, Kanban boards, unquote, might be a better way of approaching it, because those people doing digital transformation, they equate agile with Scrum, they equate Scrum with Jira, they equate Scrum with software development. if we talk about digital transformation and say, in a digital transformation, we want to give the people doing the work the power. We want them to visualize and understand their work. Therefore, we want to visualize with a board. And oh, look, we're going to use a thing called a Kanban board. I'm not talking about Kanban method. You might know that. I might know that. But we don't need to tell them that. We're talking about Kanban boards for visual management to support digital transformation.
I'm going to add something that is part of our strategy. Basically, at the end of last year, we introduced outcomes because we realized that a lot of the times that the people who choose Kanbanize or like Kanbanize are the middle management, and that it's a little bit difficult to appeal to execs. I'm not going to say C-levels because I don't believe that they will ever spend some time in a tool like Kanbanize probably, but maybe the guys just below them. And what they like is to have an easy way to deploy strategy, to see whether the objectives are being met and so on. So that's why we are developing more functionalities around outcomes and OKRs. So I think that, yeah, when you're approaching a big client, the question is which level you're approaching them at. Are you going to the project management office, for example, like the people who are managing projects and telling the rest of the organization how to manage work? Or is it do they have like an agile team formed? Or is it higher than them? Or is it below them? Maybe you're approaching like a team leader or something like this, because each of those different stakeholders will have different pain points, and you have to make, I had this topic here, stakeholder mapping, but you have to be careful about, who you are approaching in the big organization and what kind of problems we can solve for them. Not just, of course, with Kanbanize, but also with the whole consultancy and training, because I have to completely agree with what Alan said earlier. It's not possible to implement Kanbanize or Kanban without guidance and hand-holding from a coach. I just think it would be very hard to just have a 2-day training on Kanban and leave the teams, or to their own devices to fool around and try to make this work.
I think it's going to be very useful here if we put the topic of the stakeholder mapping, and we could start the discussion with you, Kari, sharing some insights on the process.
I'm just going to ask whether somebody has done stakeholder mapping. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have, as we have a lot of coaches here. So maybe they can even say a few more words than me.
I'm going to extend the time then, so you could have the time to share.
Go, Hanneke.
Yeah.
Stakeholder mapping helps if you talk about getting a tool to anything across the organization. When you do a good stakeholder map, basically it means that you can identify where your opportunities are, which people you have to talk to, and which roads to walk into the organization. So basically, for me, stakeholder mapping is let's say a strategic roadmap to get into a company, basically. That's presuming that everybody knows what stakeholder mapping is.
Yeah. Basically, it's a map where you basically identify what is the how high the influence and the power of different stakeholders is, and according to in which quadrant they fall, basically what you have to do about them. Because, for example, somebody with a lot of influence and a lot of power, they can be either your evangelist or they can be your detractor, depending on whether they like your initiative. So back in the day when I was doing a Kanban implementation in one team, which was very small scale, and even then we had one person who was very influential because everybody respected him, and he was probably the only one who didn't like the idea, but because he was so influential, I had to coach him one-on-one, talk with him, address his concerns and all of that. So you have to make sure that you know who is it's not always the manager, is what I'm saying, that could influence or destroy the whole initiative. It could be just a team member who a lot of people respect because of his experience or her experience, and yeah.
It basically gives you a let's say a attack plan.
Exactly, and how to manage people during the whole process. Is there anyone else who wants to join?
Yeah, if I may share some examples from recent meetings, and so the situation that our team was in during a few, I would say, to an extent, high-profile meetings with a few of our customers is we talked to 4 different people representing different parts of the organization. So one person represented the agile folks, the agile consultants, agile center of excellence, if you will. The other folk represented the actual team. It was I think a team of analysts and 2 or 3 more teams. So the actual people who are using the solution or their manager. And the third person was the person responsible for in one of the customers for IT. So this when we had that meeting, and of course before the meeting, when we did our research, it was a very good opportunity for us to have the big picture of who's going to be involved in this in the long run. And we understood that for us, it was important that the team and their manager understand it too, likes it to an extent where they can influence upwards. The agile coaches, they were the people who already had the buy-in, but what I find happening in 2 of the situation is that the IT team and the vendor management team, if you will, are also often very hesitant for multiple reasons. So in both situations, we put them as the people who might be detractors to an extent. On one case, we already got them convinced, and that was thanks to the agile coaches within the organization. In the other case, we are on our way. But the reason I'm sharing this is because when we have those conversations with multiple people across the organization, we often, what we do in terms of stakeholder mapping, we list everybody, their job title, what they do, what's their feel about Kanbanize, and what's their influence going to be in a long-term implementation of Kanbanize, and maybe even Kanban in general across the organization.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
because and in a lot of the cases, very large customers, usually after the initial implementation, let's say after the first 6 months, they typically hand over the care of Kanbanize to some IT people who are usually like license managers. And in my experience, it's very important to invest in their knowledge about Kanban, because they can be very huge allies to you. And if you ensure that they understand what our tool can be useful for inside the organization, they can be very, very powerful allies. When there are new use cases, new people, new teams looking for a tool, they will always come up to you and try to help you defend Kanbanize against other tools, let's say so. So yeah, never miss some of the important stakeholders is my piece of advice.
Thank you for sharing, Carrie. I think it's going to be very useful for us to hear other experiences from consultative selling. Somebody who is open to share their experience, maybe. I'm sure, as many of your consultants, you have convinced some of your clients via a selling process. So what were your initial practices that you used?
Just a question. We have like 3 minutes left and there's a highly voted topic. Why don't we go with that first?
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem, because I thought it's going to be more related to what Kari said, and we're going to just build upon the conversation that was done in the previous topic. So let's go with the one that you, Andrea, proposed. So how to provide the best demo session when we don't have a use case of a client segment? This is a crucial and very vital point.
I'm going to cheat and combine that with the previous question, which just got removed.
Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of consultative selling in terms of listening and understanding some of the client's challenges over the course of maybe 6 hours over 4 weeks, and then mocking up an example of their enterprise to say, to Alan's point, wouldn't it be cool to be able to see your work like this? And I'll even try to avoid any of the Kanban jargon, but to say, wouldn't it be cool if by virtue of doing the work, you got your metrics and your visibility as a byproduct instead of having to make people fill out tools in order to get visibility? And having that conversation at the executive level got me so far a 1.5 year engagement of coaching different groups in the organization and helping them start to spin this up at the lower level.
I have to
Sorry
completely...
about that. That was the wrong word. I won't use it again.
No, it's completely the truth. It's the same with us actually. When we have to do a demo for a client of a partner, that's why we always ask the partners to work with us, to give us a diagram or whatever they have, maybe the outputs of the static workshop, even if they've already had some kind of definition of flow workshop or static or value stream mapping, whatever. Basically, it's always better when we already see how they're working and we map this to Kanbanize. Another thing is that some partners I know are using, for example, before they even go into demo mode or something like this, just during their training, they're using simulations in Kanbanize, which kind of demonstrates already the tool enough to get the client interested. So that's another approach where it's a lot more fun maybe than to sit through an entire demo session. I don't know what maybe Gabriel has to say about this. How do you prepare for a demo, Gabe?
Well, how do I prepare for a demo? So the preparation on the company, that was crucial in my experience. Understand the company, stakeholder mapping. The topic of stakeholder mapping, even before we talk to the company, is something that if I know it, there's potential for it being a big opportunity, something that I typically do. So I check out who's the person in LinkedIn. If you have Sales Navigator, you can go there and see the person, who's the person above him, see their job titles, get a little bit information out of that. And also I make sure to have at least some familiarity about the person. If it's a very specific job title, for example, let's say some kind of I recently talked with a sales director, but it was complete in manufacturing environment, so huge projects. It's not typical sales work, it's actually more of a project management work. So anyway, those kind of things is what we typically do prior to a demo. Take a look at the person, company.
I think it's also what Andrea mentioned, collect pain points up front. It's all about what kind of problems we can solve. And that's why we actually try to solve solutions with Kanbanize and not so much the features.
Yeah, the
yeah, of
thing is,
course.
with the risk that I get into a fight with everybody at Kanbanize, but in configuring a tool and putting a tool is only 10% of the work. 80% is in figuring out the workflow, getting it attached to the workflow.
Absolutely.
So whenever you do any kind of demonstration, that's the main message. Okay, we can talk about this tool, but the layer deeper or before it and around it is much more hard and important than it is, not only because to figure it out, but also for the mindset that goes with working with Kanban, that all those things are not part of the tool. They're part of the thing around it.
Yeah.
100% true. I agree with that.
Thank you very much, Hanneke. But for the sake of time, I'm going to move to the last topic because we are already over the limit with 3 minutes. So I'm going to give another 3 to conclude today's discussion with value prop and differentiation. So somebody who would like to hop in and dive into this topic?
Maybe Pierre can tell us what was the intention behind that question that you would like to learn.
I think he maybe means the value proposition and how Kanbanize differentiates. Is that right? Or I don't know if Pierre is still with us.
Pierre, are you still in the call?
I think he's left.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe so.
Maybe we could continue on Hanneke's previous input, or if you guys vote, we can end the discussion now and we can provide you with all the details of the lean coffee table questions later.
The only remark on the value proposition is that you already changed it a little bit, but it's harder to start small with a company with a value proposition that you have. That's already improved now, because before it was worse. But I noticed that Kanban tool is a competitor for that reason. So then I'm not talking about the value proposition as a Kanban tool in general, but more as Kanbanize as a tool. Good thing is the long trial period that you help us, because your competitors cannot do that. So that makes it better. So I think your value proposition is especially that you let people test it, so they can at all ease and all time, basically. Other than that, it doesn't. The Kanbanize is more, let's say, complete than other Kanban tools. That's to me the most important part. But not all companies need that. And then it becomes really hard to give unique value, because if they don't need it, it's not point for them to go there.
I'd like to ask you something, actually. So one of the things, because it's about differentiation, that we often are looking for is comparison between different tools. Now, I remember when we chose Kanbanize, the process took like a year, and we evaluated like 20 tools. We had 200 different criteria that we evaluated against. But what would be really helpful is if you can like start to create a list, maybe different categories, and then like I have like a kind of survey or something, and like use our experience also to give some ratings for the different tools, and also maybe add on to the criteria, so that eventually there's like a page on Kanbanize. That's what I like dream of, let's say. There's a page on Kanbanize that really has a good overview, and which is not more like a very subjective one, because every one of us would have their own opinion about different tools, I guess, but something that is like created out of a collective, like the ratings. I know that there are such things out there, but they usually only have like a small amount of particular tools that they evaluate against, and also only particular criteria that might not be the ones that we are looking at in Kanbanize. So business rules, for example, is one of the greatest things. And obviously they don't pop up in any of those comparisons, because it's not available in any tool. So that's something I would really be happy to see.
Yeah, we also spoke with a sales consultant a few months back, and he also said that it's very important to emphasize the functionalities that we have that are making us stand out, than compare side by side so much with tools, because if we make a comparison right now with, let's say, Jira or Azure DevOps, it will be a picture in time, you know, because they also develop as we also develop. Like, there are features that are developed constantly with different tools. We do have some comparisons that we previously have shown at partner meetups in terms of pricing. For example, Jira and add-ons you have to buy for Jira. It's also going to be part of a new sales presentation that we have put together. Price comparison between Jira and Kanbanize and Azure DevOps.
Yeah, but that's usually not the key. I mean, it also depends, right? So in a large company, like Azure DevOps might be part of the suite that is available. So the price is usually not the key point. But like, for example, the time, like for me, it's the time that you save for admin tasks, for example, and it doesn't have to be so precise, like on particular features, but more like an overall, like also like the best use case or what it's, you know, anything that gives a more like a bigger picture rather than just two tools next to each other.
Yeah, I've seen a good comparison done by one of our clients before they moved from Azure DevOps to Kanbanize, and it was more around Kanban practices and maturity. So it was like enlisting the functionalities that Kanbanize has and Azure DevOps doesn't have, if they want to mature. Again, talking about maturity of the organization, which I really liked. The way that they approached it. It was not feature by feature, you know, do you have this and does this tool have this? But it was more like around, what they will need.
Yeah, if you can share that with me, maybe even like a minimized version, great.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're already 10 minutes past the time. It seems that we had a very fruitful discussion since we extended, but I think it's time for us to pause it here and of course make a promise for a next one upcoming in April. So we are going to continue the conversation, and of course we're going to make sure that you all guys have access to the materials that we have collected from today, such as the notes from the coffee table. If you feel that you have any questions upcoming still, please reach out via email, and we're going to follow up as soon as possible. I'm also going to make sure that everybody has access to the recording so you can rewatch it and make the most of it. So yeah, I think this would be for today's event. Thank you so very much for joining. I'm very happy to see your enthusiasm and all the valuable insights that you've shared.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for organizing. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Next time.